Good morning, everyone. I have to start the speech by presenting the main character of the project Gestire 2020 that has already been mentioned at the beginning of the morning, which is biodiversity. And also have to remember that biodiversity is the premise for a healthy and natural development of all natural species, including man and the ecosystems where all beings live. For the protection of biodiversity, Europe used RN 2000, which is a network of community sites to protect and preserve habitats and species at risk. So Lombardy region had its own Rete 2000, which is made of 246 sites, as a surface of 370,000 hectares, so 15.7% of the regional territory, 209 species of communitary interest, 56 habitats, and 56 managing entities, which are natural parks, provinces, municipalities, ERSAF. There is Natura 2000 sites managed by foresters, others by ERSAF, and we also have a company. And I told you about this because Rete Natura 2000 is the framework we started from to write the actions of the project Gestire 2020. Thanks to the project Gestire 2020 for the protection of biodiversity, it was possible to implement human resources and economic resources which were meaningful. The total budget of the project was 17 million euros, a contribution of the Commission of 10 million euros, and a co-funding of Cariplo Foundation of 1.4 million euros. The difference from other life projects was that the integrated strategic projects, which started in 2014, presented four innovative elements. One of these was the long direction. Our project lasted for 8 years. We started in 2016, and it will be over this year. The obligation to do project on a wide scale, and they did intervention around all the territory of the Lombardy region, and the obligation to integrate life funds with other complementary funds. This is absolutely new in the field of this sort of project. Our complementary funds, which are the ones we identified, were equal to 83.5 million euros. To identify them, when we presented the project, we reached out to the managing authorities of structural funds and the one of Lombardy region, and we tried and understand with them which of their funding parts might be in line with the interventions of the project Gestire 2020, and we set and decided an amount that could be used for our purpose. We had the European Social Fund that was supposed to strengthen the regional competencies of Rete Natura 2000 with budget destination that equal 500,000 euros. FEASR for the preservation of habitats and species, 70.5 million euros. The Fondo Aree Verdi, which mainly is a fund which is powered by a fee for those who build on agricultural areas, and this fund has to be used to create green systems, 4 million euros, and Cariplo Foundation that has been working on funding tenders about biodiversity for years, and the tenders could have contributed with 4 million euros to implement some actions of the project. But the fourth innovative measure, which is the most interesting, is the PAF, which is a strategic tool of multi-annual planning for the management of Rete Natura 2000. In order to show you that, I'll start a video, 1-minute video, that briefly try and illustrate what PAF is.
Ma cos'è questo PAF? Realmente PAF vuol dire
What's PAF? PAF means Prioritized Actions Framework, or Plan of Intervention for the Preservation of Biodiversity. Thanks to European regional funds, it is possible to fund PAF and intervene on woods, forests, lakes, and rivers. And also all the habitats including the ecological European network, Rete Natura 2000. Lombardy has 246 Rete Natura sites, which are inhabited by different vegetal and animal species. Enjoying the beauty of our heritage is a pleasure, so we have to take care of it. Let's join our forces and do it together.
Ok. Allora, premetto che è stato consegnato ieri sera.
There are some flaws, but we wanted to show to you today, so later we will promote it through different channels. But that's because during these 3 years of project, these 8 years of project, sorry, we realized that this document was unknown to most of people. But actually, it's a fundamental document because who wants to invest resources in biodiversity does not have to waste resources in activities which are less important written on PAF, because in here we have the priority measures to be taken. So if we want to protect the species at risk in the Lombardy region, we have to invest on what's written on this document. So I urge all the territorial entities and bodies, the private actors, and the people investing in agriculture. And in the Lombardy region, these activities is fundamental, so we expect a great attention to biodiversity from them. You can just download PAF by the website Natura che Vale. And now, another important innovative part of the project, which was not mandatory, but that we invented, is the figure of the facilitator technician. They used it in their speeches, and it was a nice way to tell their activities. So we have transversal facilitating technicians, experts in specific competencies, going from hydrobiologist to wildlife expert to a naturalist expert in habitats and vegetation, and animation, facilitation, and territorial planning service constituted by 1 coordinator, 3 animators, and 4 territorial technicians. What was this team for? This team was necessary to mobilitate the complementary funds I told you about before. So expert people in biodiversity at all levels, that had to be always informed, that had to inform the audience on the tenders available for biodiversity. They had to do animation on the territory and had to help them during the planning to submit the applications for the tenders. This is a list of the fundamental actions of the project. For each of it, we would have so much to tell because we started from guidelines, protocols, studies, concrete actions for each of these activities. For example, habitats, forests, we made specific and concrete actions and guidelines. On birds, we detected, identified the priorities of intervention, and we had direct interventions, Chiroptera, reptiles as well. We had to detect the best of priorities and more to it, but we will talk about during our next speeches. Ecological connection, we detected 41 priority areas for intervention where we identified areas within which it was fundamental to create important habitats for some species at risk, the ecological outflow, to identify the minimum flow of water channels to protect water species, monitoring of other species, alien species, invasive alien species, the capacity building and governance. We will have so much to say about it. We will talk about it later, specifically during the afternoon. Surveillance, protocols, trying and make surveillance more effective in Natura 2000, and communication. We did so much about it. For each action, we created brochures, flyers, videos, informative events, disclosure events. This can be found in the website Natura che Vale, documents, videos, and everything we produced. Now, the strategic goals of PAF. We have 3 results of monitoring of PAF for each strategic goal. I have to say that monitoring of PAF was a project action that was very important and that required a long time and attention and method at the same time. So the figures I'm giving you now are figures that come from a detailed analysis of each project that has been funded for biodiversity. So these figures are aimed at habitat, species, and so on. So very quickly, on governance, we produced 80 documents, including procedures, protocols, line guides, strategies, and action plans. On capacity building, we were able to involve 5,000 actors in training activity. On the awareness we talked about and information, 20,000 people involved through 370 events, information materials, and other activities. And I'm saying the most important one. I think it's important because it's about the concrete interventions of conservation of habitat and species that are 24,300. You can just read the results. I think it's nice to underline that the species object of most numbers of interventions were birds, followed by Chiroptera and the reptiles. This map shows all the interventions we carried out with the life and complementary funds. An important figure, the team of facilitator technicians was able to implement over 300 planning with 30 million euros. So the project totally invested 163 million euros, reaching a 62% of the financing needs for the PAF 2014-2020. by going beyond the goal of the project, which was to just achieve a 30%. The fund that most contributed to the implementation of this project, Life EP Gestire 2020, was FEASR, which is the Rural Development Plan. And now I will use my last minute to thank everyone that worked with us to reach our goals. The managing entities of Rete Nazionale 2000,
Le associazioni.
the Environmentalist Association, the Regional Observatory for Biodiversity in Lombardy, universities, citizens, students, external collaborators, transversal technicians, facilitating technicians, the colleagues of other direction of Lombardy region, the colleagues of the natural and biodiversity structure, the project monitors. And last but not least, I'd like to thank our project partners, which are LIBU, WWF, Environmental Community, Foresters, Lombardy Foundation for the Environment, and ERSAF. And I'd like also to thank Elena Tironi and Olivero Spinelli.